my first hit in 2004 was titled Tongolo. And in it, there was a phrase where we said, make I tell you the cocoa, meaning I want to tell you the cocoa. So that's 17 years. But I've never told anyone the cocoa. But on Arise Playroom, I might let it out a bit.
Baby, tell me what's your name? Tell me what's your number? Is it me or something else? Cause of like I see my hunger. You drive me insane. You mess with my medulla. I never let you go in pain. I wanna catch you now forever. Oh, emergency, emergency. You never see me coming. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome to this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues and all the controversies around the world. I'm Sumner Sambo. Our top stories: Zamfara Governor, Northern Elders condemn attacks on Northerners in South. The Northern Elders Forum says the North won't vote along religious or tribal lines again. Almost 2,000 inmates escape in Imo State during an attack on a prison as Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari appoints a new police chief. Over 6 million illegal arms in circulation, says National Peace Committee Chairman Abdulsalami Abubakar. And experts review Land Use Act and its implications on security and investments in states. Plus, Britain goes into national mourning over death of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. He died at age 99. Northern elders have spoken on the 2023 elections, alleging that the South is using the agitation for restructuring to bargain for the zoning of the presidency. The Northern Elders Forum, led by Professor Ango Abdullahi, says Southern leaders are threatening the North with a restructuring crusade to achieve the objective. The forum says the approach by the South can destroy the merit of restructuring and put the country in danger. The Arewa Consultative Forum has also complained that the South is provoking the North by what it described as attacks on Northerners in the three southern regions, describing the North as the fabric holding the nation together. Also, Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle also warns that in crisis situation, the South has more to lose in terms of its business interests in the North, considering the strategic nature that Southerners have established themselves in the North compared to Northerners living in the South. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Jibrin Babandachi, who's the former Chief Press Secretary to the incumbent Niger State Governor, and also by Dr. Sam Amadi, who's a Rise News analyst. Good to have you, gentlemen. Coincidentally, both of you seem to be wearing what looks like, as if you're sending danger signals to the nation. Well, it's not a matter of laughter, actually. The country is in chaos right now, and the kind of rhetoric we don't expect to be hearing at this moment of our existence is what we are still hearing. The North-South divide, and then Northern has been attacked in the South, Southern has been attacked, and all of that. I just want us to talk about the implications of this kind of comments on national security and then peaceful coexistence. Let me start with you.
Thank you very much. When you follow the comments of political actors in Nigeria, both appointed, elected, and non-state actors, sometimes you wonder whether they are talking about Nigeria. For instance, the comments you have made, which is always on both sides, not engaging, not dialoguing, and all of that. Always threat. If you don't do this, this will happen. If you don't do this, and I think that we need to move forward. Every country is a work in progress. Like I keep telling people, Nigeria is nowhere it should be, but nobody should take me to 1914 or 1960. I was not there. So you cannot keep talking about the country with a huge potential and you keep talking, because if you read the books, you read the newspaper, it is this same rhetoric that some of us who were not born that we read in all these books about North-South and not this religion, this ethnic group and all of that. We are leaving even the core issue of human development, the main challenges of health security, of education security, of food security, issues that concern the common man, the job security. How many Nigerians are going out of school? How many of them? The poverty has no religion, have no faith. It's a Nigerian challenge. The same person
so
who is
the leaders should focus on resolving these issues, but you can't also take away the attacks on people of one particular part of the country and all of that, which is bringing these issues.
Yes, I'm just coming to. I'm concluding with. I was just giving a background on the general issue because we follow this. You look at two issues that you raise: the Northern Elders, and of course, based on Nigerian politics and dynamics, you have all these groups, ACF. Northern Elders Forum, Ohanese, Yoruba, Afenifere, and all of that. We expect that these groups should be a unifying factor reaching out when there are exuberance, because a lot of these people have seen it all. They enjoy the best of this country from both sides. From north, south, these are people who enjoy the best of Nigeria. So they should give the younger generation the hope that is desired. And if they are state actors that are showing certain level of exuberance, these are forces that should come together and unite Nigeria. And I come to the Zamfara state governor.
Yes.
The Zamfara state governor, in his own case, the implication of what he say is even very much, because, for instance, this is an elected officer. And I recall, and Shagari, we related very well when I was in Mina. When a quit notice was given by a non-state group in the north, my boss, Nigeria State Governor Abubakar Sani Bello, didn't just spoke against it. He rallied all the Igbo leadership in Niger State and brought them. They came to government and said, if you are going to other state, don't try Niger State. That was very important. And what I expect from the governor,
that's what you should have done.
Yes, what I expect from the governor. I spent some of my formative years in Zamfara. An uncle who was a commanding officer in their ordnance. So Zamfara Gusau especially is a very dynamic, much more dynamic than Nigeria.
Okay, now let's actually listen to you. At this state of our existence, should we be having this kind of rhetoric? And should the state governor actually be promoting this kind of sentiments? If he's in power, what effort is he also doing to link up with governors in the south to see how these problems can be resolved? Because, I mean, it's a common challenge everywhere.
I think I agree with my brother. I mean, clearly, I think the Zamfara governor was being mischievous and deceitful. He said APC, but first he mischaracterized the attack against President Buhari in Abuja, in London, as an attack against the North, and that's so beyond illogical. I mean, how would that be? We saw. If people may disagree whether it was a good behavior, we can argue that it was disrespectful, we can argue that it was even maybe silly, you can take that view, but definitely has no conception of an anti-North. So for a governor to raise a political rhetoric against the president as an attack against the North is actually the one who is ethnicizing a national issue. It's a question of accountability. People can argue president shouldn't go on health tourism, people can argue he should go. The presidency says he should go. Opponents say he shouldn't go. If he said it was a PDP or political position, it makes sense. Second, to now say, oh, you guys, in the event of this conflagration, the South will lose more. It's also below, responsibility. Because first, we're not even counting on who will lose more. If there's anything, the nation loses.
In terms of chaos, everybody loses.
So why are we counting losses? Okay,
no one will be saying that, okay, this one's a northern now, this is southern.
Even if
people
you
on the
wipe
streets
out
attacking
one
almost
part of
everyone.
Nigeria, the nation has lost. So what leadership did at this point is to say, we don't want any loss. We shouldn't want any trouble. So his statements showed some political calculations. He said, well, even that PDP but I'm against attacking the president. And that's why I'm even thinking about going to APC. You know, there was a rumor about
yeah,
APC.
I mean,
so
lots of talk here and there.
Totally irresponsible. But again, back to the
APC.
issue is raised around what's going on. There are three kinds of conversation going on. There's a conversation around presidency, Southeast or South presidency. I mean, those are valid conversations. The justice of the case favors Southeast, but politics doesn't follow perfect logic. So it could be that at the end of the day, the Southeast doesn't get it. Nigeria will not scatter. But it's a political argument that people should be allowed to make forcefully.
Okay, now let's talk about the Northern Elders Forum actually saying that the North will no longer vote between religious or ethnic lines.
Yeah. I think
what did you make of that comment?
They raise a lot of issue from the communique, and I think that is different between their comment and that of the Zamfara State Governor, because they even came out and condemned yes, they condemned the attack, but they also called for restraint from the younger people, from anybody, that we should, the people in the northern region should be good hosts. And I expect that is the line. What one expect, to add to what Doctor said, is for the governor to even have some photo opportunity. That was the point I wanted to make about Igbos who are in Zamfara in their third generation. There are Igbos there who are in Zamfara in their third generation. Yorubas who are in Zamfara in their third generation, especially Guso is a cosmopolitan community because of the rail line and all of that. So these are the things that elected leader at all levels should do when some non-state actor show some level of experience. So, but coming to another instance from, I think they raise a lot of issues. And one of it is that they believe, from their view as elders, that at every point is not constructive engagement between other part of the country and the North. It's always putting the North on the defense, and sometimes even almost I can't say bulldoze, but making it look as if the North is the problem. And that is one issue that I think shouldn't be. Then secondly, they also raise other issue that in 2023 it's not going to be about zoning but restructuring, that the North was not going to relinquish, say, just because of that. And then thirdly, they also said that the North, the voting pattern should not be along.
Yes, and let's actually have your views before we go on break. What do you think about that? Is it an admission that previous elections did not actually took that line?
Well, clearly, I mean, not only the North, maybe other people too. I mean, so I think it's a good development to say, look, we shouldn't vote. By the way, what's the value of voting for on the religious line? No matter whether I think Prembore has done well or not done well, you can't say he has done better for either religion or ethnic group. In real sense, the country has failed woefully. We are failing in healthcare, critical institutions, everybody gets affected. So I think it's an improvement to say, henceforth, we look at capability. Now, it does not, you see, if you look at the process of zoning, it's globally recognized. It depends on the dynamics of the country. You can decide that, look, to create a sense of well-being, we rotate governance. The World Bank in their 2018 development report says countries stabilize when they take into cognizance their configurations. So a sense of belonging. It does not mean that you are saying that X place has more quality people. But you are saying maybe it's good for us. Some places say, look, let's go merit. So it's a conversation we should have with respect. But I agree with him that even if we're going to vote, even if we say, okay, all the parties agree, the major parties say we're going to zone our to southwest or southeast or not, let them look for persons who can get the job done. And when we vote, we are the voters. We're not going to look at the zoning, maybe. We'll just say, look, that this guy looks to be someone who can solve the problem. Because arguably, Nigeria has an existential effective governance crisis.
Yeah, I mean, that's what people have been saying, that we've been looking at ethnicity and security all this while.
But there's a bigger governance crisis.
We've lost it. We've not got the best. Well, we just have to go on a break now. When we come back, we'll continue with other stories. Stay with us. to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. Security forces in Imo State are still combing the nooks and crannies of the state in search of gunmen who attacked Owerri during the week, where they freed prisoners in a jailbreak and attacked the state's police command. The police have accused members of the indigenous people of Biafra of carrying out the attack, and the acting Inspector General of Police has met with police commanders in the southeast region. Let's listen.
Fear into our people and make them vulnerable. But I can assure you that government, working with security agencies, will rise to the occasion and get to the end of the matter. I've already commissioned a detailed investigation into this incident with a view to finding out the perpetrators and the masterminds of this ugly incident. Luckily for us, no life was lost. The lifeless body you saw was not by any bullet wound or as a result of any shooting. I think the body became unconscious as a result of shock. And I'm told that the issue is being managed by the medical team.
I still have with me Jibrin Babandachi, former Chief Press Secretary to the incumbent Niger State Governor, and Dr. Sam Amadi, who's a Rise News analyst. Let's start with you, Dr. Sam Amadi. The State Police Command being attacked in the early hours of the morning alongside the correctional center there, where prisoners were freed and all of that. A lot of people have questioned why the police could not make the best use of intelligence reports made available to it. We had the Minister of Police Affairs defending that it's not only the police people were overwhelmed. Even though the intelligence were made available to the police, it was also made available to the army, to other security agencies, that they could have come to aid the police. Do you accept that kind of logic?
No, of course not. And don't forget that the governor later came on air and said, this is not IPOB. I mean, when he first said IPOB, some of us says this is typical Nigerian lazy, you look for a straw man. We do know the tendencies and disagreement between IPOB and government. So they wait for the hungry fruit, so to say, the low hungry fruit. The NIC came and said, no, this is not protocol opponent. Now, what is clear in this crisis is the level of shambolic level of police intelligence and security intelligence and work.
Well, the DSS provided intelligence.
They said they provided intelligence.
Now,
what's the value of intelligence if it cannot be used? So the question now, the inquest that should have been happening at the National Assembly and the State Assembly is what's the nature of the intelligence? Why didn't the police act? Because look, where this happened, this is about some stone throw to government house.
And there were reports that the government house was also attacked.
SS lives there, SS Commission. The commandant of the military brigade lives close by. The headquarters of the police is there, the court is there, everything. So, and these people were said to have spent about 30 minutes singing Solidarity song, according to report. Nothing was done. We talk about shooter. Now look at the report. The police says they had to ward them off from the armory. Nobody was killed. Only a scratch on the police officer. So the thing is mysterious. First, you ask yourself, if we didn't see the video, we would not believe anything happened. So some people are now retelling the story that this could be actually an insider job. That if this can happen, each time police are killed, no casualty on the other side, no preemption, then isn't it possible that some people are really insiders who have sophistication and capability?
The governor said some politicians.
Politicians is a high-risk job. If politicians want to, politicians, he knows better. They can embarrass you. They can sponsor a person. But police to embarrass you by going to take a high-risk action of attacking a military establishment is not believable. So it has to be that there's some organized group doing this work, because if the police overlook three DSS signals, if the police couldn't even stop them, if nobody captures them on video when they are coming into the city with those vehicles and doing the arson and doing the evacuation, and they were even shot, nobody was killed in that process, like the governor said nobody died. It's really suspicious. So we're afraid that
the governor says he has set up a commission of inquiry and all of that, but a lot of people say that they may not actually believe in the outcome. But these are things that should normally be done. What do you think can be done to avert this kind of crisis in the future?
Governance is about self-accountability. And you see what happened around the world. government officials in other parts of the world, especially the are not in a hurry to conclude when things happen. You don't say it's a politician or any group. Government is being, like what he said now in the clip that was shown was even more gubernatorial, if you like. You know, he's saying that he's working with other security agencies and all. That is what it should be, not what he's saying in the first instance. He's quick to make a comment about whether it's a politician. What is important is that there is a huge gap. One of it is that we still have issue of interagency, collaboration, and cooperation.
Correct.
No agency can do it alone. Why should a very important 78 hours, 48 hours, 24 hours notice? And this area, when you look at it around the security architecture of Imo State, should be one of the most secured area.
And that's
and there's one too. This attack have been going on systematically in other parts of the southeast.
Yeah, I mean, so you had divisional police stations being born. Even during the week, we still had a lot of these
one thing that we should
note
is that these attacks are not happening in rural outposts. They are happening in major target, divisional
or urban,
so important places. And then what you should also look at, what happened to the armory? What is their larger target? In time of after the attack, what is the agenda? So these are the things that we'll have to look at. What happens in Nigeria is that we like to grandstand. When issues happen, we grandstand, but we don't look at medium and long term. For instance, the correctional facility that was attacked, after a series of jailbreak about 5, 6, 7 years ago, what were the measures that are taken to secure
the facility?
So
okay, let's talk about how this affects the overall security of the country. A lot of people have said that, look, Nigeria is in dire need of better hands to secure the nation.
Absolutely.
Well, the president has changed the service chiefs. He has also changed the Inspector General of Police. In all of this, do you think that very soon we will be seeing better measures being put in place?
No, for me, no. There's no indication, change of personnel oftentimes. By the way, most of these guys come from the same hierarchy of leadership. It's not like you brought in external persons. So there could be marginal improvement. Somebody puts a stress on something. Maybe this IG will be much more peace-loving, much more human rights compliant. But the essential crisis of insecurity in the country derives from 3 levels. One is, you see, they say when there's a fire, there must be heat, there must be some kind of lightning, and there must be something that can explode. You have to take 3 out, or one of them. Now, first is a sense in which every part of Nigeria is choking with injustice. A sense of disconnection.
I mean, we had about 10 soldiers being killed in Benue State with one officer, and they were burnt alive. I mean, a lot of people are saying there's a fundamental problem.
So we need to look at reinventing governance. Local chief executives at the state level themselves have to go back to the people and become trustworthy. Because you see, the question around people owing up to who they know, for example, let's assume it's insider's job, people within the territory. People know them. If they don't feel connected, if they don't feel that they belong to the state, the governor is working for them, the country is working for them, they're not going to support that. Second is the question around basic integrity of the policing system. People around this country, north, south, center, everywhere, feel insecure that they can't even trust their security system. People are
so
alleging,
that if they provide information for them, they misuse
that it could be a security hatchet job. Because look at what it says. You hit 1, 2, 3 in the same efficient, what level of ragtag army?
And I just want us to take a look at the political statement made by the former governor of the state, Rochas Okorocha, that the incumbent governor should come and meet with him so that he can coach him on how to handle security matters.
I think there's an important point that Dr. raised that I just want to speak to. I think as we speak today, like what happened during the NSAS,
very quickly,
the morale of our security agencies, especially the police, is under their stockings. They have been dehumanized, demoralized. If you have, it gets to a level, like Doctor said, that the 2 things have to happen in every society. Popular support for security agency and change of perception. If you see when this IG was being decorated, these 2 important statements that the vice president
break at the moment, and when we come back, we'll continue with the other stories that we have. Well, it's time for a short break. There's more when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. Terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, separatist agitations amidst increasing poverty and threat of hunger are some of the challenges currently facing Nigeria, Africa's largest economy. The picture of what's happening on the ground is grim, and the level of insecurity is disturbing. Security forces in the country are not just overstretched, but mostly underfunded. But the question is, how does Nigeria find a way out of these problems? While the National Peace Committee has been meeting with state and non-state actors to hear divergent views on how to reduce the rising insecurity in the country.
The proliferation of caliber of weapons, not only in our sub-region in general, and in Nigeria in particular, is worrying. It is estimated that over 6 million of such weapons are in circulation in our country. This certainly exacerbated the insecurity and led to over 80,000 deaths. And also, we have close to 3 million internally displaced persons.
We did not create ourselves. God created us. And when God was creating us, He did not ask us, where do you want me to bring you into the world? We just found ourselves in various places.
I still have with me Jibrin Babandache, the former Chief Press Secretary to the incumbent Niger State Governor, and Dr. Sam Amadi, who's a Rise News analyst. You have covered the defense bits, and you've gone through several parts of this country reporting, and even outside the country. When you see a lot of small arms and light weapons almost in every part of the country like this, how worried are you? Especially when you hear that 6 million of these small arms.
I'm very worried, but I'm not surprised. I'm worried, but I'm not surprised. It speaks to the issue that we have raised before, what Doctor said and all of that, about how our attitude to our country, for instance, how secure is our border, and the number given by our elder statesman, I think, is conservative.
Some people are saying
yes,
it's up to about 11 million.
For 3 reasons. I recall when Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, when the crisis in Libya was where I was interviewed by one of the television stations, and I said, you may not like Muammar Gaddafi, but once Muammar Gaddafi is out of Libya, I didn't know that he was even going to be killed, that Nigeria, another part of West African sub-region, because they are a restive group, and conflict entrepreneurs around these areas that they manage. He helps in managing, they don't know how to do it. But more importantly is that a lot of people underestimated what was in the armory of Libya. And once the man was gone, there was no Libya. And of course, there is the traditional Caribbean route for business that have been over 1,000 years, and Nigeria is paying dearly now. You use the Boko Haram, like you said, I was an embedded defense correspondent, and some of these vehicles and small arms and light weapons used by Boko Haram and other restive group around Africans of the Sahel regions and all of that, and even into Nigeria, is from Libya. That is one angle. The other one is that the attack on our critical national infrastructure, like the police stations and all of that, when these police stations are attacked, where are the arms? For instance, during the NSAS, up to today, there are over 1,300 uncounted AK-47.
Yeah, they're taken away from the
before I allow a doctor to speak on that, AK-47, even the regret of the general who produced it, he says it's only regret. He regret it as a national instrument to protect his country, the then USSR. But when he was at his bed, his only regret, he said that it was used especially in third world country. It's durable, it's user friendly, it's like
simple to operate.
Yeah, simple to, in less than 24 hours you can use it. It can stay for 40 years. And it doesn't require much service.
Okay,
so
now
we are in danger as a country. And to move forward as a country, we must, 1, secure our border. 2, government must be firm, decisive, and if necessary, ruthless. No government allows it.
Okay, let's hear about some of the seizures that we've always had. The customs seizing so many of these small arms and light weapons. At the end of the day, we don't know what happens to it. The disarmament programs that we've had, at the end of the day, it looks like some of these small arms and light weapons are unaccounted for. Yeah. And so how worried are you, Dr. Sam Amadi, that this country is having more than 6 million small arms and light weapons?
And counting. You see, the point you made, of course, if you don't have integrity institutions, so you are talking about customs seizing goods, just like some goods, family goods, beverages are seized and disappear, not accounted for. So you could also say that those firearms, how are we sure that those seized illicit arms are properly disposed, either taken to government armory, classified, counted, and kept there? How are you sure it doesn't recycle back to criminal elements? Politicians have incentives to procure them for elections have become almost like violence. When I was in foreign affairs as an advisor, we had under Yaradua then the Bloody Oil Project, which was an idea taken to the UN to say, look, classify illicit oil bunkering, oil trading as blood oil, because it was feeding, even during the time of the Niger Delta struggle. They were using oil, bunkered oil, to trade in arms. And that's why they had sophisticated weapons to engage the Nigerian state. So this is a long process. The Libya crisis compounded with the caravan trade. So, of course, we had the OCA model, which is a locally produced
one. The locally produced
one. So the crisis is that, look, the US are talking about right to arms, okay? But all is that, it's not about right to arms, it's about arms being available to criminal elements. So it tilts the balance of security.
Now, and sorry to cut you short. Yes. One of those criminal elements we had during this outgoing week is a new group that we actually had, which the Nigerian army referred to as Bonta Boys in their statement, saying that these armed bandits located at a community called Bonta in Konshisha in the Benue State actually attacked soldiers, killed 11 of them, 10 regular soldiers and 1 officer, took them into a forest and burnt them before the Nigerian army had to come and attack these so-called Bonta Boys.
I think
isn't this a precursor to a violent 2023 election ahead?
Absolutely. See, in the first place, the political leaders have fostered this menace of banditry. They created it in all regulated contests for power. Now, if you watch all those militant groups you're talking about, whether in Benue, whether it's Aaron, Ghana, or so, who was bumped off, these are people who have been nurtured by politicians, used for violent political actions. Now, look at it. 2 factors here. One is the presence of arms and the audacity and the hatred, the lack of respect for the state to attack soldiers. But again, how come our soldiers, our personnel are easy target? It calls also something about preparedness, about our capabilities, and how we deploy. We already know that our environment are tensed. So why do they pick them so easily? That's another issue, because it shows some lack of discipline, lack of proper training. I don't know what it is, but essentially, I don't want to be hearing that soldiers are easy to control.
Yes, I mean, let me just ask you that. You know how much it costs to train a Nigerian soldier. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, resources, and all of that. How come bandits can easily just capture 10 soldiers at once alongside their officer, a captain, not only kill all of them, but burn them alive? I
think
something is wrong within the system, as people have said.
The statement I was making earlier about government being firm, decisive, and when necessary, ruthless. No country allows attack on what you call a national, what you call an instrument of national power, like the Nigerian, especially the Nigerian army, Nigerian police, of course, and all of that. So for me, this is a danger signal, and I hope that this should not occur again. I'm happy the governor, he is not joining in the rhetoric. He has warned the community, because the relationship, there are 2 things that happen there. In addition, even if you seize the AK-47, a weapon of a military officer, is like a man and a wife of a man being taken away. The only thing that will stop him is if you kill him. So it's the double wahala. One, they took away their weapon, but also killed them in a much heinous. And it is not even in an operation. If it is like face to face, you say it is a gallant this thing. So one, what I also observe is that local grievances should be resolved without necessarily calling the military. This is what
the National Peace Committee has said, and the government actually needs to listen more to groups and aggrieved groups.
And I'm happy.
And again, sorry to continue. The dangerous thing we're going to now is that we're using aerial attack. This is war. It's arguable there's no constitutional power to declare war against the country of Nigeria. So you are right, criminal elements do something, and then you bombardment.
Yeah, I mean, a helicopter had to be deployed and all of that.
Bombardment in several places. So each time we allow these bandits to kill police and soldiers, then we now send bombardment. You see, the notion, the conscience says you can't declare war, you can't deploy troops internally to fight, except it has become a racist situation. So the notion that we should expose our military to this harm and then use that pretext to kill community. People who might be innocent standby. I can imagine people come from the farm and getting killed by aerial bombardment because some criminals who may not even be from that place. Don't forget that some criminals may be pulled from other areas and they find a habitation.
Now, let's just talk about the National Peace Committee actually coming to meet at this point in time. You had businessmen, traditional rulers, and the media and all of that coming to talk on this issue. What does this say about our country at this point in time? That things like this will be happening at random, and then you even see policemen pulling off their uniform and running away.
Because
isn't this a situation that warrants the National Assembly to really think of rejigging the armed forces of Nigeria?
It's really tragic.
Very quickly, as we try to round off. What are the solutions?
It's tragic that the Senate President has not thought it fit to bring the National Assembly to dwell on this issue, even enter
the National Assembly is in recess at the moment.
They should have come back. See, look at the crisis. This is actually, the National Assembly has been missing action. This peace committee is good as a civic side, but the question is, the National Assembly is the one who should have even had a congressional commission to examine. Look at 9/11. When it happened, there was a congressional. Don't allow the military should be the only one giving us a report. There should be independent, bipartisan legislative commission to inquire. What can we do? Do we need to fast track restructuring? Do we need to bring a national conference? Because the country is actually faltering at the middle.
Yes, some people have said that the attack on a prison, the attack on a state police command is a declaration of war on Nigeria, not necessarily the Southeast.
Or even attack.
Do you subscribe to his idea that the National Assembly should do an independent
idea, and I'm happy with, I was part of the National Peace Committee, so this is the way to go. I think in a very long time it was a very comforting engagement, and like you said, they engage with all the stakeholders, Service Chief, National Security Advisor, Senate President, and all of that, Chairman, Governor, Nigerian Government, and all of them, and then engage with the media and other CSO. So it's but beyond that, government must take the lead. And this is why I talk about grandstanding. When there's one attack, what you see in the National Assembly or by political actor is to talk as if that will be the end of the world. No, you think through. Why did this happen? What should we do so that it will not happen? You look at short term. For instance, what is the legislative agenda on our national security based on what has been happening? What we need to realize, like experts have said, we're in the age of what we call durable disorder. This will not go. It will not go easily. There has to be local solution, because some of these are local grievances, and politicians should be put on the ground, and then there should be strategic leader at the same level, so that we reduce the involvement, especially of the military, in inter-security operation.
All right.
Because
politicians should not wish away the problem. I really like that. Actually, a lot of people have said this, that durable disorder is one that politicians have to really consider, because if you just think that you have to sleep and then the problem will go away, it means there will be a challenge. Time for a short break. There's more when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. Civil society organizations in Nigeria have told state governors to put in place effective policies and legal frameworks to improve revenue generation. The groups are condemning the politicization of land resources by state governments.
To find solutions to economic challenges being faced across Nigeria. According to the Statistics Bureau, 23 states generated little or no revenue last year. Now, things were made worse by the pandemic, but they were already bad before. Civil society groups blame the economic policies of state governments. They say the low rate of internally generated revenue is often connected to an inability to attract investors and a mismanagement of land resources.
If the economy is doing well, if federal education is going well, how should state governments manage to create investment, increase IGR, is by boosting economic activity in the states. And the prime resource for this is the land. And so the question is, why should state governments allow, like in the case of Enugu, these lands to become instruments of political action, so that politicians will share land that are covered by agreement as a sort of occupancy to foreign and local investors who have already mobilized funds to create infrastructure, develop those states, like the case of Private Estate International West Africa. And then you allow politicians to patronize those states and give to themselves. So look at the Imo and the Enugu case and several cases, I think, across the country.
How many percentage of the taxes really hire the government? So in essence, oil and a few other things, be outside the people, hire the government. And when they hire the government doesn't look for the best. So the governor can appoint a shoe shiner as a commissioner, can appoint his gardener as a commissioner, because he doesn't really need the brains that can attract investment. But when the governor knows that I have no money expecting somewhere else, I must run my state on the basis of what I can generate internally. The taxes I can find, the creative vision I can deploy in agriculture, in the better use of the land, and in securing foreign investment. Then you begin to think about the capacity of the individuals who will work with that government.
Participants at this event are calling for constitutional reform. They say Nigeria's Land Use Act gives state governments arbitrary powers to mismanage resources.
I feel constitutional amendments for the National Assembly is very vital. So that, because only state legislature may not suffice, may not solve the problem. If the states go ahead to do it, of course we know the states are the caprices, whims and caprices of this executive we're still talking about.
It's clear that there's resource mismanagement across Nigeria. Now, this group wants federal, state, and local governments to work together to boost revenue and hopefully improve life of the public. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
I still have with me Jibrin Babandache, who is a defense and security editor with Blueprint newspaper and also a former spokesman to the Niger State Governor, and also Dr. Sam Amadi, who is a Rise News analyst. Let's go to you, Dr. Sam Amadi. How pertinent is it for us to actually reform land administration, the Land Use Act in Nigeria, considering the attachment, emotional attachment a lot of Nigerians have to land, which is stifling investments, and then you have some state governors actually misusing their powers that's given to them
I think
the Constitution?
I think two reasons. One is that, of course, like I said, the Land Use Act has been generally seen as a tool of dispossession. Probably under the military, the issue was probably how do we standardize land transaction for development. But again, it ended up taking the land from the local people. That has created a lot of poverty, because land is essential resources. So in many communities, the rich, through the state government, take the lands from the community, because the power of trusteeship is in the government. The other issue is around land being an asset that could be leveraged for multiple transactions. And so when governments share those lands for private development, houses, and then not use it, put it for either agriculture or commercial activity, it becomes a problem. Now, in this case, for example, in the Enugu case,
you gave that example of Enugu State where investment had been misused.
Had the good sense to have this private sector people come to develop the new Enugu infrastructure, golf course, lifestyle, basically infrastructure. So he gave them agreement, and then they had a CFO. Then a new government comes in, surreptitiously begin to backerize the land, giving wrong CFO to other persons, and then these people who have over 10 billion got from local and private banks, they're investing, and then this land is being land grabbers, even court cases are not being respected. So the question then is, if a state undermines its economic development by misusing land, by not creating contracts, rule of law, we know that economic development depends on a rule of law framework, which means that people have sanity of contracts. People who transact with state governors know that, look, they can make those investments. Now the court says this is wrong, you are still doing it. So the question then is, a state like Enugu that has zero foreign investment, that has very low IGR, large unemployment, or like Imo, for example, you need to have those contractual certainty. You need to free land so it doesn't become an instrument of politicizing, become instrument for development. And so the case of private estate international West Africa, Enugu government, illustrates why states are poor, because they undermine the capacity for investment and economic development by dealing with land. This is a land, you have an agreement, this is a land that you have a CFO, people have started making investment and building, and suddenly you, in fact, in this case, the surveyor of the team was appointed land commissioner. He now trades on the land. So really, this is...
So how does this affect investments?
First, investors, if you look at Nigeria rating, the VP has done a lot of work in trying to improve ease of doing business. But those are looking at days, how long would the real ease of doing business is the understanding that public officials respect contract. The ease of doing business that matters is the sense that court orders. So if you're going to be going to the Supreme Court to simply allow government that sign a contract, allow you to build on your land, then that's the cost of business. And therefore, it means that investment will not come. So the problem is, it's not for nothing that Nigeria didn't have any investment last year. Foreign investment was the lowest because we didn't have the capacity to give assurance of certainty of contract. That's the problem with the Enugu and that.
All right, land is an emotional issue, and we just hope that the right issues are done so that we'll get more investments. Well, let's move on to the next story. World leaders are paying tributes to Prince Philip, whose death was announced earlier on Friday. The Duke of Edinburgh died at the age of 99. He was the longest serving consort in British history. His death has elicited tributes, remembrances, and expressions of sympathy from political leaders and royal families around the world, recalling his many years of service, his straightforwardness, and his long devotion to his wife and a variety of social causes. The flag at Buckingham Palace has been lowered to half staff, and the royal family's website featured a black and white portrait of the prince. Well, gentlemen, the world is mourning alongside Britain on this issue. Let's have your thoughts on
the
what
world
this
is mourning,
means.
and for me, it's the end, not the end of an era, but end of eras. You know, because this is a man who lived through various epoch, you know, serving the Second World War, was a combatant.
Yes, and a lot of British prime ministers come and go.
Prime minister. But what for me was much, I follow him closely because of my interest in polo. He played polo until he was 60, and then later was devoted to equestrian horse racing and then to giving back to the society. But for me, what stands out is his devotion, you know, and giving everything for love. Because this is a man who is on the line to being a king in Greece and in Denmark.
But in addition to that, well, they never actually knew that his wife was going to become a queen. Let's talk about how this may affect the queen, considering her age at this point in time, losing her husband, considering the royal rumble that's going on with her family. How do you think this will affect her?
Maybe it looks like a perfect storm, but the queen looks like a resilient character. I mean, her age, the way she has carried herself, I think it will be traumatizing. Prince Philip is an icon when it comes to a doting husband. This is a man who has
stayed with her up until the end.
He may have his problem, racism, misspeaking here and there, some legacies, but essentially he has become a real model of steadfastness. So the Queen has lost a beacon and a stabilizing influence. But again, we know that the Queen looks strong, resilient. She probably will pull through, but essentially half of the Queen is gone.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Amadi, Arise News analyst, and Jibrin Babandache, Defense and Security editor with Blueprint newspaper, and also a former Chief Press Secretary to the Niger State Governor. Well, we want to thank you for all coming, and that's how it's been for this edition of This Week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Sumner Sambo.